Fatima was the envy of everyone she knew. At 28, she exuded elegance. Her wardrobe brimmed with designer dresses and the most expensive handbags. Her fingers sparkled with diamond rings as she stood in the front of the mirror, adjusting her jewelries. Her life had always been about luxury, the best 5 stars holidays, exclusive dinner invitations. Her friends admired her life, even though they couldn't quite figure out how she afforded it. "My husband is a businessman," she would say with a coy smile when asked how they managed to live so lavishly. She'd flaunt her expensive taste in front of her friends, always talking about how her husband, a mysterious businessman, would surprise her with gifts. What they didn't know, however, was where his wealth truly came from. They only knew he was successful. To Fatima, that was all that mattered. To her friends, this vague answer was enough. They admired her, envied her, and often speculated about the wealth that seemed to flow endlessly into her life. Little did they know that Fatima's world was about to shift in ways they couldn't imagine. Her friends lived comfortably, but not extravagantly, and while they were happy for her, they couldn't help but wonder. Fatima's constant bragging about her husband's gifts made her seem untouchable. Little did anyone know, her perfect life was about to take a dark turn. Sarah, her closest friend, always threw the best parties. This Saturday was no different. Sarah's house was bustling with energy as she celebrated her birthday with a group of close friends, Fatima among them. The night was filled with laughter, champagne flowed freely. The music pumped through the speakers, and everyone was having the time of their lives. As the night wore on, everyone became drunk, including Fatima, who was always careful to maintain her posh appearance. At around 3 a.m., the party wound down, and the last guests staggered out, leaving the house in a state of chaos. The next morning, Sarah's regular cleaner, Charlene, arrived with a small team to tidy up. As she cleaned, she found a peculiar gold ring with a red stone. She handed it to Sarah, who, still groggy from the night before, briefly examined it and tossed it on her bedroom table and went back to sleep, unaware that this ring would become the focal point of a chain of events that would change their lives forever. That day, Sarah spent most of her time resting. The ring lay forgotten on her bedside table, a small, seemingly insignificant object. But elsewhere, Fatima realized something was missing. She couldn't find her ring, a ring her husband had warned her never to lose. Panic gripped her heart. It wasn't just any ring. It was a symbol of her wealth, a symbol of her life. She called Sarah asking if she had found anything that didn't belong to her. But when Sarah questioned what she was looking for, she quickly said a key without thinking, but Sarah seemed to have no recollection of it. "No, I haven't seen anything," Sarah said casually, not even remembering the ring Charlene had found. Fatima, desperate but not revealing the true nature of her search, asked Sarah if she could come by and look for herself. By Thursday, Fatima's anxiety had grown. She decided to visit Sarah's home unannounced. "I need to check for myself," she insisted. Sarah, still confused about the so-called work key, allowed her friend to look around. Fatima combed through the house but didn't find the ring. But keep saying if anything at all had been found, that's not hers. "If I don't find it, my husband's work will be in jeopardy," Fatima lied. Sarah, feeling guilty but clueless, promised to let her know if anything turned up. Friday night, Sarah's husband, Nick, came home. As he undressed, a glimmer of red light caught his eye. Curious, he followed the glow to the bedside table. There lay the ring, its ruby-like stone glowing faintly. "I've never seen you wear this before," Nick said, holding it up. Sarah blinked in surprise. She had forgotten all about it. "Oh, Charlene found that at the party," she explained. "It might belong to Fatima, but she's looking for a key, not a ring. No one has come forth about the ring." Nick examined it closely, shrugged, and placed it back on the table. That night they went to bed as usual. But while they slept, something terrifying began to happen. The ring began to transform. Slowly a snake began to unfurl from the stone, its red eyes glowing with a malevolent energy. The ring transformed into a massive python with gleaming red eyes. It hissed, coiled, and spat out bundles of cash onto the floor. $100,000 in total. But at 4 a.m., Nick awoke from Sarah's scream to find a stack of money scattered across the table in the room. "What? Where did this come from?" he stammered. Sarah, terrified, confused at the same time. Bundles of cash, worth more than they could ever have imagined. Shocked, Sarah screamed again. They stared in disbelief at the money that had mysteriously appeared. How could this have happened? What did it mean? The couple was paralyzed by fear, unsure of what to do next. "This must be a blessing from God," Nick declared, though Sarah wasn't so sure. "We should take it to church," she suggested, her voice trembling. The next morning, Nick filled 2 bags with the money, telling Sarah he would deliver it to a trusted pastor, and Sarah thought that was a good idea. He later told Sarah that the pastor had advised them to donate the money to the church. Sarah, too stunned to question him further, agreed. But Nick had other intention. Greed overtook him. He stashed the money in a secret location for himself and began spending lavishly. Sarah noticed Nick's newfound extravagance. A luxury watches here, an expensive suit there. When she questioned him, he lied effortlessly, weaving tales about commissions and sales. Sarah, suspicious but trusting, let it go. Meanwhile, every Friday, the ring would turn into the python, spitting out another $100,000. Nick grew more cunning, waking early to collect the money without Sarah noticing. He was intoxicated by the wealth, but his greed would soon have dire consequences. Nick's life began to unravel. On a Monday morning, he narrowly escaped a fatal car crash. Though sober and alert, his car inexplicably veered off the road. He walked away with a broken arm and cuts on his face. On Wednesday, he was fired from his job after being falsely accused of theft. Nick kept these incidents from Sarah, continuing his routine as though nothing had changed. The tension in the house was unbearable. Sarah, desperate to understand what was happening, sought help from her pastor. She told him about the constant fights, Nick's strange behavior, and her growing suspicions. The pastor advised her to pray for guidance and to speak with Nick. But when Sarah tried to talk to him, Nick refused to listen. He became defensive and angry, not wanting to acknowledge the problems that were spiraling out of control. Sarah, torn between loyalty to her husband and the growing sense that something was terribly wrong, continued to pray. Little did she know, the ring's power was about to escalate to a dangerous level. One fateful night, everything would change. As Nick's problems escalated, so did his obsession with the money. He spent less time at home, returning only on Fridays to collect the cash. The ring's power seemed limitless, but its cost was becoming unbearable. The following Friday, everything changed. Nick, as usual, came home drunk. Sarah, exhausted from their constant arguments, decided to pray before bed. The money had appeared once again, but this time the ring had a different plan. As Nick slept, the ring transformed into the python once more, but this time it wasn't satisfied with just taking his wealth. The snake slithered toward him, its red eyes glowing ominously. It coiled around his body, choking the life out of him. Sarah's, however, was having a dream. She saw the horrific sight of the snake choking Nick, and she was fighting the snake to let go of her husband. She woke up in a panic in horror as she saw the snake the nightmare playing out in real life. She screamed, grabbing whatever she could to fight back. She hit the snake with all her strength, throwing everything she could find at it. It wasn't until the snake finally loosened its grip and transformed back into the ring. Sarah was in shock. Nick was unconscious, weak and pale. Sarah, terrified and exhausted, shaking, called the pastor for help. Rushed to the house with 3 other men, trying to revive Nick while Sarah prayed desperately. The snake finally turned back into the ring in front of Sarah. They prayed over the ring, sensing its malevolent power. As dawn broke, another knock came at the door. It was Fatima and her husband. Fatima's husband, upon returning from his business trip early that morning, found that his wife's ring had disappeared. She explained everything, unsure of how it was lost. Without wasting time, Fatima's husband exhausted, but insisted they go to Sarah's house to retrieve the ring. They arrived to find the pastor and several other men from the church already there, discussing the strange occurrences surrounding the ring. Nick, overwhelmed by guilt and fear, confessed everything and could not stop apologizing. Sarah was left speechless, unable to comprehend the depth of her husband's greed. The truth about the ring had finally come to light. Fatima, in full shame, stood there with her head down, knowing the secret behind their wealth had come to light, started showing erratic behavior. The pastor and everyone prayed for Fatima and her husband, and they were encouraged to receive Jesus Christ as their Savior. The moral of the story teaches us about the harmful effects of greed, dishonesty, and the problems that come from focusing too much on material things. Fatima, who valued her wealth and style, ignored the importance of honesty, trust, and real connections. Her fixation on status and fake luxury caused her to lose something much more important, her integrity. Nick also fell into greed, driven by the secret money he took from the ring. His lies, obsession with wealth, and neglect of his marriage led him to a chaotic and destructive life. In chasing material success, he lost his job, his health, and, most sadly, his relationship with his wife, Sarah. Overall, the story emphasizes the value of truth, trust, and the dangers of putting material wealth above meaningful relationships. It shows that no amount of money or possessions can replace the importance of honesty, love, and respect. The tale also warns that unchecked greed can lead to personal downfall and hurt those we care about. True wealth comes from the relationships we build and the integrity we maintain, not from temporary pleasures of material goods. Be happy with what you've worked hard for. Sometimes the grass on the other side is not as green as you think. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate your support. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel. It would make our day. Until then, see you in the next video.